people from the Caribbean can have a better view of disability and what it means to be disabled, and to respect that.
Definitely. And as you were talking about your reference to, oh, this would be a dream where things are accessible. Yes, I mean, we're trying to make that a reality instead of just, that dream sequence.
Yeah.
We would love to see, and that's something that when Nisha and I were speaking to one of the organizers with the Toronto Caribbean, the King and Queen show, it'd be great if they had an audio describer to describe costumes, like how we were trying to emulate that sailing on the six boat ride where we had Lavway Carnival. Some of the masqueraders come up, describe their costume. There are professional audio describers where they would describe costumes head to toe, bring the imagery. So you're bringing in audible imagery. I can imagine what the costume looks like while you're seeing it. That's something to make that event more accessible.
Welcome back to another episode of In We Blood, the podcast that's dedicated to help reignite an appreciation for Caribbean culture and traditions. Today I have here with me a very special guest, Keya, who's the Director of Disability Justice from the CNIB Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that's driven to change what it is to be blind today by delivering programs and powerful advocacy that enables Canadians impacted by blindness to live the lives they choose. So I was recently invited to a boat ride, which was a fete for low vision, blind, and sighted people to come together as a way to make Caribbean culture more accessible to people with low vision and blindness. And Keya was one of the main people behind the incredible event. And it was honestly so awesome to be there and to have an event where it's like all of us come together for the love of the culture, and it was so awesome. So Keya, thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for having me, and thank you for that lovely intro. Wow.
Yeah, I tried really hard.
I feel special.
Okay, so one of the things that we were really talking about is kind of like, some of like the stigmas that there is in, the Caribbean culture when it comes to people with low vision or blindness. I know that was one of the things that we were talking about. I would love for you to kind of, explain a little bit more about what that looks like.
Certainly. So as I am a person with sight loss, so just to give you context on myself, I'm a Black woman, Trinidad background, woo woo, very proud of that. And I grew up with sight loss. So I have partial sight in my right, no light perception in my left. So growing up, I mean, I didn't see a lot of representation of blind Black Caribbeans. Mm-hmm. I was one of the few growing up. Now, when it comes to the stigma of sight loss or, whatever spectrum you're at when it comes to, vision loss or sight loss. In the Caribbean culture, there isn't much, there still is room for more understanding and more a concept of what that is, because I can go into spaces, I've played Mass in Trinidad. I've played Mass in Toronto, other parts of, the United States. And you still don't see people like myself, mm-hmm. very few partaking. And, when it comes to, accommodations, for example, for myself to partake in Trinidad Carnival, I was very fortunate. I had a friend of mine who's she's a Trinidadian, she's an avid Mass player. And she was my eyes. Like, she made sure that when we crossed that stage mm-hmm. in Trinidad, which is, I just have to clutch my heart and have a moment of silence. But, I was able to understand and, feel the energy mm-hmm. and safely cross the stage because she understood how to guide me. But in those types of spaces, those accommodations, you don't see that happening. Boat rides, same thing. Yes, we may be able to navigate a space, but you're not seeing the accessibility, the inclusion there. It's still very catered to able-bodied individuals. So the understanding of how to accommodate, what accessibility means, there still needs there's certain things happening, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
So when it comes to like carnival and mass specifically, what are some of the ways that you, from your perspective, would help to make it more accessible to people with low vision and blindness to be able to participate and access that type of thing and experience it to the fullest?
For example, when, just the sailing on the six, the impetus behind that was to create that inclusion where, for example, we had trained volunteers who were trained in sighted guide. So understanding how to properly communicate, approach, making sure you have the integrity and giving that integrity and respect to the person who is living with sight loss or who is blind. Understanding how to guide properly, engage, having volunteers who understand how to do that in these spaces. That is so helpful because you're, forgive the word, but you're normalizing. It's not just you're making us feel included, and you're normalizing it. That the person was a volunteer and understands how to guide other people, the volunteers' friends or your family. You're out with your family. They're gonna see that. Other community partners. Let's say the boat ride organizers that you're on, or if you're at an event. They're going to see, if they have these people in place to assist, it's going to create a platform, a place, a space for us to enjoy these events.
Well, while you were talking, I was just imagining what that could look like. And I just kept seeing like CNIB, an organization that specializes in this kind of thing, partnering with a mass band or a section to get people on board to have that training, to say like, hey, this section is our section where we're going to link up. We're going to have, a certain amount of costumes or whatever for people from, the low vision and blind community to come play a mass with us. We have our volunteers, our guides, that kind of thing. And I think that would be so cool to have like a dedicated section so that, like there's a section for people who are, and even when we think about, I heard you mentioning like disabled. I didn't even know that blindness was considered like part of the disabled community.
It is, but and I like that, the point where you're making is that definitely having that inclusion and the impact training be a part of Caravana and mass, that mass playing. But we want to also see that, yes, there's these dedicated volunteers and also family members or your friends, because, I call my friends my CNI friends, but because, they I
like that.
My CNI friends, but they, they get it.
Yeah.
And the more you come in contact with a person with sight loss, with whether it be total blindness where there's no light perception, different acuities, again you come accustomed to it. It's not just that we're going to try to dismantle that discomfort, and it'll be so, I'm using the quote sign, normalize, or just so we're gonna, not even normal, because what is normal, but it'll just be an ordinary occurrence where there's volunteers throughout every section, so it's not just one section dedicated to persons with vision loss. It can be any section you want to play in. It's accessible, it's inclusive, because then everyone, no matter what your disability is, can enjoy. Able-bodied disability community, we're enjoying it together.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds amazing. It sounds like a dream. Like it sounds like it would just be so nice, because you know what? Last year when I was playing mass, I remember I kind of got to like the back of the parade. I was waiting for some of my friends to come back around, and our band passed. And I remember seeing a guy who was in a wheelchair just holding on to the back of a truck right where the speakers are, so he could, wine and jam just the same like everybody. Right. He wasn't in costume, but he wanted to enjoy the parade just like anybody else. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's what inclusion is about. And the sailing on the six, having that experience of bringing the communities together so we can experience, the Caribbean community can see, hey, this is what people from the vision loss and blind community can do. We can party just as hard,
the
even
same.
harder.
I seen people whining down with what's the stick? What are the sticks called?
Oh, a white cane.
Holding on to white cane, whining down to the ground and back up. I said,
see,
"Oh my God!"
See that the cane is used for an accessory and necessity. There you go.
That was probably the most fun that I've had at a fete ever. And I told you on the phone, like, when I went home the next day and I was telling my mom about it, I literally started crying. I'm a crier, but I literally started crying because I was like, you can see how much they put their heart into this event. Like everything about it, it just felt so good. And it was just so nice to see everybody having fun. And there was no type of, like, you know how you're saying it's just an ordinary occurrence. It just felt normal. Like, yeah,
Yes.
We're all here to just enjoy life.
And I have to shout out to Nisha Mitchell, who was that was my partner in, I don't want to say partner in crime because crimes are negative, but partner in bringing this to life. And, we had a wonderful volunteer, Renu Chowdhury, the Charlie's Angels. We put our heads together, and like, this is a concept that a lot of us who are from the Caribbean community, also from the disability community, we've been wanting something like this forever. And to see it come to fruition, it's yes. All right, next. First boat ride, we're trying to also continue that momentum, create that excitement, and also create, that platform of let's make Caravana inclusive, and with either connecting with we start with one band and then see if we can keep that momentum going where all mass bands, will be creating an inclusive, they will have the awareness to create an inclusive environment so we can play mass safely and just enjoy the experience like everyone else.
Yeah, I feel like that would be so amazing. And I really look forward to the day that does happen. And it's so awesome that we have, organizations like the CNIB, a platform like In We Blood, and then, the rest of the community and the mass bands to kind of have almost like this link where everybody gets to see like, hey, there's an opportunity here for us to bring the rest of us into the ting. Like, we're missing some of us, right?
Exactly. They say somebody missing. Well, you know what? we are not sorry, I'm an incorrigible Trini, but we're not missing out anymore.
Yeah.
We're here. We are part of the community, and this is, as I said, this is part of our culture, and having persons with disabilities enjoying the Caribbean. We start off with the Caribbean culture. We also want to extend to different diverse groups, because when it comes to the stigma of disability, there's a lot of common misconceptions and maybe some negative feelings when it comes to disability, and having more events where we can showcase our capabilities, how we live life, how we want to enjoy life. That's what we want to continue doing. That's what it means to change attitudes. We want to get out there and show people what we can do, creating inclusion, creating community, creating that accessibility.
Yeah, one of the things that we were chatting about is some of the ways, like, sometimes people from the disabled community, we were referring specifically to the vision loss and blind community, can be infantilized.
Yes.
And so I would love for you to kind of touch on, sometimes the ways that people might do that unknowingly and what we should be doing instead.
Definitely. And, the congratulations, like, for example, I remember playing mass, and I don't use my white cane because it's very hard to navigate. But when I do disclose, there's one time I disclosed that someone was asking me something. I'm like, sorry, I can't see what you're doing. I have vision loss, and I explained it like, oh wow, that's so awesome, that's so great that you can do this. And no, this is just an ordinary occurrence. Like there's nothing special in me doing this. Just like how, the adage where you put your pant leg on one leg at a time, so do I. I may need to use a different step, or maybe use my technology when I'm doing something. Use screen readers. I'm just putting in some tech in there, so to make my world accessible. But using that, good job. We need to eradicate that, because I am living my life just as fruitfully as you are.
I love that, because and sometimes people think that's like harmless, like they're congratulating you, like it's awesome that you're here, not knowing that that is like a bit insulting.
Yes,
right.
It is exhausting, because that cognitive load, and it takes. It takes the effort to get out there, because you have to navigate with your cane. You have to figure out, okay, depending on, there's the music, there's different stimuli, which makes it harder for us. I mean, for me, sometimes I'm trying to maybe communicate with someone, the music's going, where you can read lips. There's certain cues that you can do to communicate. I'm in these environments, it's a bit harder, but there's always a way around it, and that's what we're trying. When it comes to making it more inclusive, making it more accessible, there's ways around everything, so we're able to coexist in these spaces, or these events.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about is calling in the solutions to make these things more accessible, like starting off with the boat ride, but that's just one thing, and then thinking about how we can make the spaces more inclusive, and how at the end of the day, people from the Caribbean can have a better view of disability and what it means to be disabled, and to respect that, right?
Yeah, definitely. And as you were talking about, your reference to, this would be a dream where things are accessible. Yes, I mean, we're trying to make that a reality instead of just that dream sequence. Another thing we would love to see, and that's something that when Nisha and I were speaking to one of the organizers with the Toronto Caribbean, I keep saying Caravana, so my apologies, I'm using the wrong Toronto Caribbean Association, correct, Carnival Association. The King Queen show. It'd be great if they had an audio describer. To describe, the costumes, like how we were trying to emulate that at the Sailing on the Six boat ride, where we had Lavway Carnival. They had some of the masqueraders come up and describe their costumes. Where you can have there are professional audio describers where they would describe costumes head to toe, bring the imagery. So you're bringing in that audible imagery. So I can imagine what the costume looks like while you're seeing it. That's something to make that event more accessible. So hopefully next year, or that's something that we would love. We would love to see a collaboration where CNIB can collaborate with them, and we would give suggestions, or refer them to audio describers who can do that, and that could be something that's part of their initiatives to make that event more accessible.
Yeah, I would love to see that, and I'm sad to hear that it won't be coming in this year.
Yeah.
Sometimes things can be slow moving with these different organizations, but I do hope to see something like that come into fruition again, to make it more accessible. Yeah, so getting back to not just staying in kind of that dream state, and really bringing things forward into fruition, and making like tangible changes. I know the CNIB has a strategic plan as to some of the things that you guys are looking to put into action. I would love for you to discuss some of that with us.
Definitely. So we have our 3 commitments. So the first 2, I'll just name them, because the third one is the one that I'm attached to, but it's all about what I'm doing. But we're all doing the work. That's the thing. Like CNIB, we're all trying to, as a collective. So we have safe and accessible journeys. So with that initiative, making sure across Canada, because everything is, national initiative,
Yeah.
that when it comes to your infrastructure, transit, everything is accessible. There's accessibilities in place, and that is, our strat plan's a 5-year plan. So we've already started in April of last year. So we have the safe and accessible journeys. Pardon me. We have Our Kids Will Thrive, making sure that there's accessibility in the classrooms, and you make sure that there are mandatory eye exams happening for our young people, because I can even use myself as an example. I had a misdiagnosis. I was misdiagnosed up until age 5. They thought I had hearing loss, not realizing I had sight loss. So just using that as an example, but that's that's some of the initiatives that we're working on. And another commitment is changing attitudes. So changing attitudes encompasses the first 2 commitments, but with what's happening with changing attitudes, we want to, for example, and I'll bring it back to Sailing on the Six, the initiative of influencing the influencers. So it's like yourself and the other great influencers that were on the boat ride. You're experiencing the sight loss journey, or you're experiencing that awareness, and you're using your platform to educate your followers. So that's how we can change attitudes. Where, like you said, you came to this event, you observed, you had that aha moment of, wow, this is what sight loss really means. It also you had that education of, oh, well, you dismantled any misconceptions of what you thought a person with sight loss.
Especially after I saw the wind down.
Well, with the kid, I wish I saw that too. But you're able to share that with your platform, because you're reaching tens of thousands of people who may not know, like, well, what does it mean to be blind?
Yeah.
This is, this, and you're letting them know this is what it really means. And having public events, having the experiential events, that's a subset of the work that I'm doing. Where we're trying to change the attitudes of how media, how government, how the educational systems, the medical system, how they perceive disability or sight loss, and how we can create the awareness, create the accessibility, and really start dismantling the microaggressions, because they're still quite evident, and we want to make sure with the work that we're doing, we're unapologetic. Like, this is, we need change to happen. This is how we need to make these steps happen, and especially connecting and collaborating with influencers like yourself can really help in the work that we're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for even considering me to,
of course,
be somebody to try to help promote your thing. I feel honored and happy and glad that my platform is seen as valuable enough to help to share what you guys are working on. And it's honestly been a pleasure to attend the event that you have, and I hope that anything that you guys have in the future, I would be able to continue to come and to continue to share the work that you're doing.
Definitely. You're it.
So maybe for people in the community who know somebody who is blind or has vision loss, how can they maybe connect with you guys or connect with events that you guys will have in the future?
So what you can do is you can register with CNIB.ca. We have a mailing list where we have a plethora of all types of events, whether it be, your recreation, peer support, children, youth. We provide programs and services from 0 to 99. Anything to do with advocacy, you can also, we also have our contact center. that you're able to call, and you can either be connected with myself or other program leads that serve the GTA. Oh, well, since we are in the GTA, I'll use that as an example, but across Canada, we have, our advocacy leads, we have program leads in the said areas I mentioned that can provide information on any type of program or services that you do need. And, especially for children and families, as I mentioned with the work that we're doing with Our Kids Will Thrive, we have recreational, educational programs, day camps. I'm kind of going back into that was before I was in this role years ago, I was doing programs for youth. So you're definitely, for children and families, there's something for everyone.
And you mentioning that just made me think about also finding ways to make like kiddies mass also accessible.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And that's something too where, with the work that we're trying to do with connecting with the mass community, where maybe we can, we've also thought we were thinking of bringing in one of the mass bands where if there's a day program for, especially for the kiddies carnival, having kids start building mass. That's something.
Whoa,
and making
awesome.
it accessible.
Yeah.
That's something that we've it's all whirling in our minds.
Yeah.
When it comes to creative programming, we want to have we definitely want to have steel pan. I'm bringing in, just talking about all the events and the Caribbean, all the aspects of Caribbean culture. We wanted to integrate. Definitely, there's a place to integrate all of these things in programs and making them accessible for our kiddies with sight loss who want to be exposed and take part, because that's how we're creating awareness within the blind community on what's happening in the Caribbean community and how can you get involved. And it's not just for, it's not just the Indo-Black community. Let's get other diverse groups involved and taking part in our culture.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds so cool. I've never even, and that's the thing when people come from obviously diverse backgrounds and different experiences, is that they can share things that you would never even think of. Like I had never thought about what it would be like to have kiddies who have vision loss or are blind, learning how to play pan. And I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I just think that is so nice. Like there's just the thought of that is just really nice. Because again, making things accessible to everybody, right? So one thing that I wanted to ask you is about, for people who wanted to volunteer, I know you're talking about program leads and stuff like that. Are those all volunteer roles, or what does it look like maybe for somebody who wants to get involved with just helping out with the stuff that you guys are doing?
Yep. So you can, again, everything is the good old website, CNIB.ca, // my apologies, volunteer. But also too, I mean, we do get calls from our contact center. People call in, because I used to be a program lead as well. So, on the program lead side, we do recruit. But of course, if anybody's interested, and especially anybody listening to this podcast, if you're interested, visit our website, /volunteer. You can submit your application online, and it'll be referred to whatever area you're interested, whether you want to work with kids, whether you want to work with adults, you want to be a vision mate, which is that one-to-one in-person volunteer. You can register.
Amazing. So I want to talk about your Trinidad Carnival experience, playing mass. And I want to talk about how we can, figure out how to make that more inclusive and accessible. So tell me about your experience playing mass in Trinidad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people could feel the smile right now. I'm just thinking back, and it's, like I said, that is the greatest stage on earth. If anyone hasn't experienced it yet, do it. It's a bucket list thing, but again, as I mentioned, I was very fortunate. I had a friend of mine who's an avid mass player. Like she's it. She understands. Like I've partied with her in Trinidad. We've partied New York Carnival. We that's my bona fide party person. But
She's a veteran.
She's a veteran, yes. But especially with Trinidad, I mean that is nerve wracking because when you cross the stage, you don't. From my perspective, because you have to know which direction you're running. Mm-hmm. There's photographers, which I only realized. I do have some. I have light perception, so you can see the bulbs flashing.
Oh, okay.
But not realizing like you basically that's how you get featured on television. You're basically jumping up in front of them. Mm-hmm. You may have a standard where, again, I mean, I couldn't. It was difficult. I mean, my vision was a bit better. Where again, I couldn't use you can't use your cane because of the crowds. Mm-hmm. So having someone who will stay with you, who is a strong guide, and you have to be comfortable with the person, because if I wasn't comfortable with my friend, I would not have done it, because the worst thing is if you lose this person, you're in that crowd and it's just hundreds of people scattering everywhere, and it can be it's a bit dangerous, almost a little bit, if you fall. You're like the gazelle, like that gazelle, and the lions are coming, like, yo, gazelle down. But it's doable. But you have to be comfortable with the person who's guiding you. The person has to be a strong guide, because sighted guide, we're basically following you. The way it's done, I'm cupping your elbow. Mm-hmm. So however you move, almost like it's like a dance. So, I mean, there you go. Carnival, the wine and dancing, but I'm following every movement. So if you fall, okay, well, I can actually, I'll have enough control where I can let go. Mm-hmm. But you want someone who can lead you. Yeah. And it's having that trust. I think it's about trust and having a strong guide. That's how it was that was my experience, and I was very fortunate. Trinidad, if they had more, volunteers, or, it's great if you have a posse, or, you have friends who can do it. Great. But let's say you want to, there's a lot of independent travelers. There's a lot of, I have some friends in the sight loss community. They're independent travelers. It's like they will go on their own, and they want to have that independent experience on their own. Great if Trinidad had, they have their Association for the Blind in Trinidad. If there was a collaboration with CNIB, and I'm taking from the Canadian experience, CNIB and the Association for the Association for the Blind in Trinidad, if they had that impact training, and they had those connections with the band leaders, whether it be Lost Tribe or Yuma, whoever it is, and having those volunteers, or having that service, that would make a difference.
Oh, that would be awesome, because then you guys could organize a whole group trip. Like, okay, we're going down from this day to this day, then we're going to meet here, and then the guides are going to...
but having meeting spots, because I know Trinidad's different. It's not like...
Okay.
Even, bring it back to Toronto Caravana. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're with a band, there's an organized meeting spot. Okay, at this time, everybody meets here. There's sighted volunteers who would help you and guide you in the throughout the band to get to your section. Mm-hmm. Just like how we had it on at the boat ride, we had wonderful volunteers from Honda. They were excellent. But we organized, there's a meeting spot where, let's say they're wheel trans, or there was a drop off point, the pickup point, guide them to the boat, and then guide you back so you get your ride home. Same thing with Trinidad. If there's an organized bus ride, which again, this is big sky thinking, but if there was a party bus for, for those who want to play mass from the vision loss community with their sighted guide, but also too there's sighted guide volunteers who are there meeting you at the pickup spot, getting you to your band, making sure that you're getting your drinks, because you need to have your drinks, but because there's the food, there's the drinks, guiding to whatever amenities the bands have.
Yeah.
But you have that sighted guide assistance. It's built in. So if you want to go on your own, you can do it on your own. If you have a group that you want to be with, yes, you have your friends who are wonderful. I mean, I love my friends, but I want to have my independence too. So you know what? Give them a break. You can go jump up and whine in the crowd. I have a sighted guide who's part of the band who can guide me to wherever I need to be, so I can be as independent and enjoy myself at my own pace.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Well, I just want to thank you so much for being here and for sharing your perspective and your ideas and the work that you're doing in the community, and to help really bridge that gap. Because again, before I was even reached out to you guys, like, that is not something that ever crossed my mind. You know what I mean? I just had the one experience where I saw the guy last year who was in the wheelchair trying to play his mass how he could,
right?
But I had never thought about the blind or vision loss community and how they want to participate in the culture as well. And so now I feel like my mind has been opened up to making the culture accessible, right? And like accessibilizing the culture. Yeah, I make up words all the time.
I like the make up wordness.
We have to make up words, man.
We do.
We have to make up words.
And as they say, knowing is half the battle.
Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to, again, hopefully continuing to collaborate with you guys, continuing to spread awareness. And for, again, anyone who's interested in getting involved, whether for your own, personal uses, as Keya mentioned, CNIB is a national organization across Canada. And you can go to their website, cnib.ca/volunteer, if you want to volunteer. And then also for the programs and stuff that you guys have for people from the community, it's also on the website, right?
Yes, everything one-stop shop.
Yeah. And so thank you so much for being here. I had so much fun with you. It's always nice to be around you and chatting with you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.